Building websites with AMP components can feel a lot like doing a puzzle. You've got all the pieces you need ready to go. It's just about fitting them together. Well, most of the time. Once in a while, you may need something that just isn't there, like a highly personalized UI widget or the need to implement complex, customized client-side logic. Well, I hope you're not too surprised to hear this by now, but AMP has a component just for that. AMP script is a component that allows you to write and use your own JavaScript without jeopardizing your page's performance. It does so by imposing some restrictions, such as limiting the size of each AMP script element to 10,000 bytes. It also harnesses the power of web workers through a library called worker DOM. Using web worker means that your code runs off the main thread and does not negatively impact the overall performance of your page. Worker DOM recreates the DOM virtually and emulates portions of the DOM API. When your code makes changes to the virtual DOM, it efficiently replicates those changes in the real DOM. I'll leave a link to more information on worker DOM in the video description below. In a previous episode, we talked about filtering by multiple criteria on the client side with AMP bind. This is a totally legit and performant approach, and I encourage you to continue following that development pattern. But if I continue to add filtering criteria like height length and elevation gain and star ratings and most favorited, things might become too obnoxious to maintain through AMP bind. So today, I'm going to begin migrating my filter logic into AMP script. I'll remove my AMP bind filtering logic, including AMP bind macro, then I'll import the script tag for AMP script into the head of my document. Next, I'll wrap my two selects inside of an AMP script element, as the user interacting with these elements is what will trigger AMP script to run my logic. Just a note, if you want your AMP script logic to run without a user interacting with the page first, the AMP script container must be a fixed size and cannot change. This prevents content jumps and keeps the custom JavaScript from impacting the page's performance. AMP script lets me define my JavaScript inline or import it from a separate file. Today, I'm going to define it locally. So I'll add a script block with an ID of filter hikes logic and specify AMP script in the target attribute. Then, I'll add the script attribute to the AMP script tag and point it at filter hikes logic. And since we're in development mode, I'll add the data-amp dep mode attribute. This tells AMP script we're not in production and avoids script hash errors, which I'll explain more later. All right, we're ready to start writing JavaScript. Even though we're working to transfer responsibility of handling filtering logic from AMP bind to AMP script, we still need AMP bind to set and read states. I'll start by giving my select element IDs, then storing their DOM elements in variables so I can easily access them in my script. Then I'll add a function called filter hikes, and for now, just see if I can successfully read from our hikes AMP state. The first thing I need to do is request the contents of the hike state variable. I do so by using a wait to call an AMP-specific asynchronous function, amp.getState, then pass it hikes. I'll then do a console log of the allHike string variable. Then finally, add listeners for the change event on both selects. Let's open our console and try it out. Awesome! AMP script is successfully reading our page's state. I want to pause for a moment and point out something important about AMP script. I'm sure you noticed that I called that first constant allHike string. This is because worker DOM is emulating browser APIs and it doesn't have direct access. So it has to get state through the messaging system, and the messaging system turns everything into a string. This means I have to turn it back into an object. I'll do that by using json.parse. Let's see if this works by updating the console log with our new object. Perfect. I've already converted my AMP bind filtering logic into a JavaScript function, so I'll paste the rest of it into my AMP script logic. This is all just vanilla JS, except for amp.setState. This is another AMP-specific function that writes an AMP state variable so that AMP bind can access our filtered hikes. I've called the new state filtered hikes, and we add this to our AMP lists bound src attribute. Let's try it out. Amazing! This works. I'm ready to send this to production, so I'll remove the data-amp dev mode attribute from AMP script. Now, if I open DevTools, I get a new error about how we're missing the script hash, but it provides me with a meta tag that includes the required script hash. So, what is the script hash? It's an extra layer of security that protects our page against cross-site scripting attacks. One advantage with AMP is you can always tell if a bad actor has managed to inject their JavaScript into your page since AMP produces a validation error. For now, I'm just going to copy the tag and place it in the head of my document. But in the AMP script documentation, we've outlined a few ways you can generate it on your own, like using an AMP optimizer. All right, let's see if this works. And perfect! I've successfully added custom JavaScript to my AMP page. Thanks so much for joining! Make sure you let me know what you want to see in future episodes by dropping suggestions in the comments below.